Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to our highly anticipated the GCC Outlook 2024 webinar. As you know, GCC is a very strategic asset for an enterprise. The GCC is helping the enterprises stay relevant, future-proof them, build the products for tomorrow, reimagine the experiences, modernize the technology stack, and they are performing the most critical business functions. Today, we have an incredible session lined up. I have two industry leaders joining me as part of the panel, Campbell and Chetan.
Hi, everyone. So just very quickly, I think based on my background, I've basically been with GCCs for the last 20 plus years. Helping set up GCCs. I had Deutsche Bank many years ago, and then Northern Trust, and most recently Allstate. I was heading the Allstate India GCC for about 11 years. I think in addition to that, I've also have a deep experience in banking, financial service, and insurance. So the subject matter domain, along with the GCC leadership, has helped me build out these organizations. In addition, I've also been on the NASSCOM being with NASSCOM as an executive council member for GCCs, heading the Karnataka Council, and I'm an executive coach, as well as have taught at IIM Bangalore. Thank you, Manjunath.
Thank you. I would also like to present a couple of statistics before we move forward. One is India garners about 50% of the GCCs in the world, which is about 1,500, and 40% of them are in Bangalore. GCCs in India generate about $40 billion, which is 1% of the GDP of India. This is slated to grow to $60 billion by in the financial year 25-26, adding about 1.3 million jobs in India. Chetan, if you had to reflect upon how the journeys of these GCCs have been, look at the priorities and the intentions with which these GCCs were formed, and the priorities whatever they are solving today. Can you share some thoughts on this, please?
Sure. Thanks, Manjunath. I think the history of GCCs is quite well known to most people, where the start was around cost benefits, right? Cost arbitrage. And that was the driving force. And this is when it started probably about 30 years ago. And that coupled with the availability of talent at scale, I think those are the two big drivers for GCCs. But then over the last, I'd say, decade or so, things have evolved, because as companies have realized that there is much more to it than just the cost arbitrage piece. They have leveraged the India ecosystem. One common area that people have seen challenge in the past has been that vendors have got deep knowledge about their systems. Vendors have become virtually the SMEs of their systems. And with the retiring workforce in the home locations, very often the realization is that the keys to the kingdom are with the vendors. And how does one get some of that back? So in light of that, what has started happening is the GCCs, as they've built domain knowledge, built expertise, they've also started getting key roles which are critical for the organization. I think that's been a big move up. The others like time zone benefits, I think are quite obvious, where if it's a US-based organization, leveraging the India time zone allows them to harness more of the 24-hour day. The other areas that GCCs are very active now is in incubation centers, innovation, trying out new ideas, creating a sandbox, also creating clones or components of the parent organization in the GCC where they can test and learn and try new things. They're also seeing UX, UI, so user experience type initiatives happening out of India. In fact, some of the retail companies have done a phenomenal job in that space. Some of the retail companies have also started their .com ventures, their .com initiatives out of India, the GCC again. And then as more functions come into India between operations, technology, analytics, shared services, it starts mimicking the home office or the home location in a variety of ways. And there are opportunities to integrate across these various functions, which sometimes is difficult in the home location. So integration across silos is happening, more efficiencies are being brought out. So I think there's just a number of things that GCCs are now seeing as opportunities. One more which I want to stress on is the ecosystem, the Indian ecosystem especially, is creating a huge pipeline of talent. And this talent can be deployed globally. So we are now seeing two things. One is global roles coming to India. The second is Indian talent finding positions globally. I think that is also a big leg up in how the GCCs are being looked at. So I think if you look at the maturity curve of GCCs between starting with the cost arbitrage and then scale of talent and then moving on to innovation, moving on to talent and accountability in the location, etc. Those are all being seen in at different levels, depending on maturity and depending on comfort and confidence. But I think it's been a great journey, and I think the future has even much more to offer.
Thank you, Chetan. That's an interesting insight. Okay. So if you look at the framework to set up the GCCs, it will comprise of building the required infrastructure, getting the real estate, sorting out the financial aspects, the legal aspects, and the most important is the talent. While we can address the legalities, the regulatory challenges, the real estate and infrastructure through a well-established partner ecosystem, what is more important is to have the digital talent available for the GCCs to ably serve their enterprises. This is where companies like Torry Harris can help the GCCs to bring in the necessary talent and kickstart the GCC journey to start adding value to the enterprises. There are three different boxes that you see here. One is on the extreme left-hand side. Typically, as you know, when people start their digital transformation journeys, there are some foundational elements that needs to be built, including the architecture and the business capability. So we have a construct which helps in building the foundation elements and the business capability, as you see on the right-hand side, the left-hand side of the screen. So which comprises of the architects, the platform architects, the UX designers, and the domain consultants. The next is, once we have built the foundation and we have an approval for the digital transformation, once we have the business case approval, it becomes imperative to have the roadmap defined on a quarterly basis. So we have a construct called as the capability identification and the planning cell, which helps in identifying all of the capabilities that needs to be built as part of the digital transformation journey, prioritize them. The typical team composition, if I had to take customer experience as an example, would comprise of the strategic design leads. It will comprise of the architects, the business analyst, the end user research team, and the product owner. So the outcome of this particular cell would be the roadmap, the prioritized roadmap, a prioritized backlog. This backlog is taken up by the feature implementation team for the implementation of this feature in multiple sprints. The composition of the team is about 10 to 11 people with the capabilities from quality engineering, the functional consultant, the DevOps engineering, and the full stack team, which is capable of implementing the feature end to end. This team is governed by the Scrum Master. This is our offerings from Torry Harris to help GCCs who are looking at kickstarting their journey. And I also want to reiterate that in a GCC journey, the digital skills is one of the key aspects why the enterprises are looking at coming to India to set up their center. Okay. Chetan, I know you have helped quite a lot of enterprises set up the GCC, including the call center operations, the back office operations, the IT operations as well. Can you please share some thoughts in terms of what are the challenges that we need to overcome when we get on with this GCC journeys? And how did you overcome them?
I think, Sure. I think one of the most important things for a GCC journey is the alignment of the organization. I think alignment is really important because typically what happens is that the GCC starts in a particular function, let's say technology or operations.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes in procurement and stuff, right? And as a result, the guidance, the direction, the metrics get aligned there. So I think the important part is to have it aligned at the right level. My recommendation would be at the CEO's, COO's table at the minimum, because that gives a wider perspective. I think once that's done, investment in leadership is really important, because then you get the right leaders for the various functions to ensure that one can lead from the front virtually and have the right leaders at various levels. So I think that's where it becomes really important. Then is the point around how do we ensure that the goals of the organization are appropriate. And there, where we've seen much more success is where the metrics are aligned to the functions they are part of and they're delivering to. So for example, if you're part of a technology function and the metrics are around budget and ability and on time and quality and those which are across the whole organization, then that makes sense. Having them unique to only the GCC creates a bit of an island which doesn't integrate well with a larger organization. The metrics I would strongly recommend for GCCs should be more around capability building, where they're building capability on various technology stacks in operations, SMEs, etc. Value creation beyond just the cost arbitrage piece. So elimination of work, efficiencies in terms of bringing a process together and eliminating a few roles, which is creating value for the overall organization by bringing in thought leadership. Cultural alignment to the parent organization. So ensuring that the GCC is as culturally close to the parent organization as possible, creating talent, pipeline of talent, diversity, awards from the industry to showcase, yes, it's in the right mold of what would be ideal for the organization. So that's the way I would look at, how GCCs need to think about themselves, how they need to align, and then how they need to also make sure they build the right trust and integrate well with the home location.
I would like to talk about two different examples. One is with JP Morgan Chase, and the second one is with Schneider Electric. JP Morgan Chase, as you know, is one of the largest financial institute in the world, and it is one of the largest based on the market cap of 2023. We started our relationship with JP Morgan Chase way back in 1998 when IBM recommended JPMC to leverage us for our deep technical expertise in IBM distributed computing products, including the WebSphere brand of products and the IBM MQ series and the Message Broker set of products. Our operating model evolved over a period of time. The operating model, though it started as a technical consulting engagement, it took the shape of an ODC where we were providing L3 services, and then graduated into a global delivery model where we started owning an outcome and delivering certain capabilities for the products that we were delivering into. And then, we started interacting with the GCCs that are set up by by JPMC and started delivering for them. As we all know, JPMC has been one of the early movers to start the Global Capability Center. They started off by leveraging the GCC Center for operations work and the back office work. Post 2008, the GCC was leveraged more for delivering the engineering services as well. So in 2008, when the engineering services were being delivered by GCC in India, they also asked us to see whether we can help them in building the capability of database engineering and web engineering apart from the messaging products that we were owning for JPMC. Our services for JPMC during these years covered platform roadmap definition, platform rationalization, platform capability implementation, help adoption of these products, hosting, and chargeback of these products to the different lines of businesses. We built the the capabilities of database engineering and web engineering. We ran it for about 6 years. And as part of the strategy within JPMC to insource all of the capabilities post 2016, we transitioned the work back to JPMC and the GCC centers. In summary, we saw our engagement model evolve from a technical consulting engagement into an ODC to a global delivery model and a situation where we were delivering for the GCC and eventually transitioned the work back into the GCC. The second example I would like to speak about is Schneider Electric. As you know, Schneider Electric is one of the largest energy manufacturing companies with operations across 100 different countries. They provide the energy management and automation solutions and help the enterprises achieve their sustainable solutions. We started our relationship with Schneider Electric in 2014 when they chose us as their integration partner to help them with their strategy, platform selection, architecture, design, and implementation of API and integration solutions. As of 2023, we have more than 300 APIs and microservices that we have developed, which are being used by some of the critical initiatives of Schneider Electric, including Go Digital, which enables the distributors and the partners transact online. And the second key initiative, which is using our APIs, is the Schneider Electric Marketplace. Schneider Electric started their own GCC center towards the later part of 2016-17 with a view of leveraging the buoyant talent ecosystem that is available in India and also the innovation ecosystem and the startup ecosystem that is available in India. Schneider Electric GCC provides digital transformation capabilities for the parent organization and their associates. So one such example of the product which is developed by the GCC of Schneider Electric is the Schneider Electric ecosystem, ecostructure, which enables customers of Schneider Electric to use this platform for energy management. It is an pluggable, open technology-based IoT platform, which helps in the customers of Schneider Electric achieve their sustainable goals. Post-establishment of the GCC, we continue and strengthen our relationship with Schneider Electric. We continue to own certain outcomes for Schneider Electric, where we are helping them, adopt Azure Cloud, Azure DevOps, migrate some of the critical platforms onto Azure Cloud Native architecture principles. And we also are strengthening our relationship with them by providing the capacity that is required in their digital transformation journey. Okay, so these are two examples of how the GCCs are adding value to their enterprise and ensuring these enterprises stay relevant and they are future ready. One more example I just want to quickly summarize is one of the banks from Europe has established a GCC center. The GCC was established with a view to provide the IT and the operations support from India. Over a period of time, this GCC adopted a DevOps model where they brought in the IT and operations team together, which helped these teams own the product end-to-end and establish the accountability and break in the silos which were commonly seen in a typical IT and operations team. As part of the continuous evolution of this particular GCC, what they started doing is they started offering some of the critical services like reconciliation services and mortgage services as a service to the parent organization. So this was very well adopted by the parent organization, the parent bank in Europe. Post this GCC started understanding the needs of the other banking and financial services customers in Europe and started rendering the services to the other customers outside of their parent organization. So this very well tells us how the GCCs are evolving and providing the services way beyond IT and operations and becoming more like a revenue generator for the parent organization as well.
So as I mentioned earlier, I don't think I think GCs should avoid metrics like productivity, efficiency, etc., because that just treats them in a different space. It's really metrics around capability building, around culture, around value creation, around retention of key staff. One of the biggest concerns people have, parent locations have, is can the GCC attract talent, retain talent, grow talent, and create leaders of the future? I think those are important aspects to build trust with the parent location as well. And in most teams, the talent discussion is kind of top of mind. And it's important to recognize that and address it upfront rather than ignoring it. So I think I would focus GCCs on the talent piece, because what is the real value creation of a GCC? It's talent. What is the raw materials? Talent. What are they doing? It's really using talent to deliver outcomes for the organization, be it on technology or operations, right? The talent is the key ingredient, and that in some ways becomes the measure. And even when I talk about capability building or value creation or cultural nuances, it's all about the talent, right? So I think linked to this are, what is the employee value proposition? What is the employer branding? How is the organization seen in the GCC's location, India, let's say, in the Indian context? How are they seen in terms of, are they a good employer? Are they employee-centric? Do they have good policies, etc.? The employee value proposition piece becomes really important. So I would consider a number of those things as important aspects. I don't know if I could put metrics for them. The metric could be talent attraction, retention. I think that's the outcome, right? The ability to do that is through the employee value proposition, the employer branding, career growth opportunities, learning and development opportunities, etc. And that's the way I would bring it together. Let's take a step back. Right? What is a GCC? A GCC is a location or a part of the organization which is located maybe 10,000 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an integral part of the organization. It's not a separate entity as such.
Yeah.
It may be a separate legal entity, but it's very tightly integrated to the organization. If you keep that in mind and recognize that all the employees in the GCC are peers of employees anywhere else in the organization, right? And they're all working together towards a common goal. And let's say if the common goals of the organization are around top line growth, new product invention, go-to-market strategy, right? Lowering costs, those being the top 4 or 5 goals for the enterprise as a whole, the GCC is also partnering in those goals to ensure that they can do the best for the organization. In that context, if one creates a different set of metrics around productivity, efficiency, etc., for the GCC, and the same metrics don't apply for the rest of the organization, for the parent organization, then you create an island. You say, hey, I'm measuring myself on productivity, efficiency, go to velocity, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the org is looking at some different goals, and that starts creating tension, and it creates wrinkles in the organization. So my suggestion would be that teams need to measure velocity, productivity, efficiency, etc. Across the team, across locations, not just the GCC. If that's the metric they want to use to look at how well they're doing in terms of technology delivery. And if it's done across the org, fantastic. That's ideal. Mm-hmm. But not as an island.
Got it, Chetan. Thank you for that. Okay. Now, moving on to the next section, we wanted to talk about the framework that we offer from Torry Harris to help the GCCs. As Chetan articulated, and our own experiences, the GCCs are basically being touted to help the enterprises in their digital transformation journey. If I have to put the ask from the parent organization on this GCC, we could put them in 4 different buckets. One is the experience transformation. The second one is the engineering transformation. Third one is the innovation hub. And fourth one is the operating model transformation itself. So the experience transformation is all about, as you know, reimagining the experiences the brands will deliver, the enterprises will deliver to their end clients by reimagining the journey so that they can deliver a seamless, frictionless experience for their end clients so they can achieve their objective without any friction. This helps the enterprises increase their net promoter score and increase their top line by providing better services to them. The engineering transformation is all about, as we all aware, every enterprise wants to become a software company, and every enterprise wants to take the new capabilities, the new features into the market as quickly as possible. Gone are those days where we had to wait for many weeks to months to release the product into the market. Now everyone is aspiring, just like Amazon, to release the product multiple times in a day. So one of the key asks from the enterprises on the GCCs is to see how they can improve their engineering maturity by offering all of the tools that are required for the complete product lifecycle as a set of tools, and build the pipelines so that the complete build as part of the continuous integration and continuous build and deployment is completely automated. Innovation hub. As you know, India is also one of the startup capital of the world, where the startups are thriving. So the enterprises are looking at leveraging the innovation that is happening in India and see if they can incorporate them as part of their service offering. Couple of examples I want to quote here is one is, there is a niche startup ecosystem called as Email Age, which helps the enterprises underwrite the risk based on the email addresses the end customers provide. For example, American Express, before offering the cards, use the email address of individuals to underwrite the risk in issuing the card to an individual. And there are other startup ecosystems which are helping the enterprises, adopt digital platforms seamlessly, right? WhatFix is one such platform. There are quite a lot of enterprises are leveraging this platform to help adopt the digital platforms which they have built for their end clients. It's a very easy to use guided tour is what WhatFix offers in terms of adopting the digital platforms. The fourth aspect I want to talk about is the operating model transformation. As we all know, there are quite a lot of silos in the enterprises in terms of the development team and the operations team. The operating model is all about how do you break those silos and adopt more a product-based operating model where there is a complete ownership of the products these teams own, all the way from the product roadmap definition, the product feature prioritization, implementation, and support of them. Chetan, would you have any further things to share before we open up the session for Q&A?
Yeah, Manjunath, one other thing I'd like to suggest to organizations as they go down this path of offshoring, outsourcing, is it's always going to be a hybrid model. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that there will always be vendor partners and there'll be in-house GCC. It's going to be an and, not an or. I haven't seen any organization which has basically created a GCC but not also work with partners. Very similar to how Torry Harris partners with organizations while they have their own GCCs like the ones you mentioned, right? The other part is it's important for organizations to take a step up or a step back to say, right, what is my larger shoring sourcing strategy? What is core to my business that I want to keep in-house? What's not core or non-core or going to be sunset that I can possibly outsource? And then what needs to be in which time zone? What needs to be in the home location time zone or in the home location itself because of regulation, because of other needs, and what can be done anywhere in the world for me? And that helps decide what can be done where and how.
Sure, Chetan. I think that's a very interesting perspective that you brought in. Because as you know, the GCCs of today are also deciding whether they will be in a position to accommodate all of the work here, or they should be looking at other sourcing locations to outsource part of the work from the GCCs as well, right? For example, people are looking at the Far Eastern countries like Philippines to see whether some of the operations work could go there, and bulk of the transformation work in terms of the engineering stays in India, catering to the enterprises.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's open up the the webinar for a few questions. Chetan, the question for you, how does the talent pool in India compare to other GCC locations globally?
Sure. So I think India is in a very unique place in that sense. We have about 2.3 million graduates, STEM graduates and graduates of various disciplines every year, which is in fact even the population of some smaller countries, right? So in that sense, India is very well placed to have talent at scale, which is really the need for most organizations, and then at an affordable price point, which works well, which is very attractive to most companies. I think this demographic dividend, as you could call it, is unique to India. And I don't know of any other location which provides it. And let me add, with the English speaking capabilities, because China obviously also has a very large population and a large talent pool, but then with the English speaking skills, etc., they're not able to compete as effectively. Plus, I think their price points have gone up or they're more expensive. So I think at scale, India is very uniquely placed as the location of choice for GCC to set up. Having said that, I think where there are certain unique skills required, like let's say in Europe, if they want French speaking skills or German speaking skills, they may want to go to a nearshore location in that vicinity because both time zone, language skills, and some of the cultural nuances may be more aligned. But again, it will typically not be at scale. It'll be a few hundred people at best, but not at the thousands that we see in the Indian environment. Again, in the Philippines, you mentioned earlier, Philippines is a very attractive location for call center.
Yeah.
And again, they have unique skills there where for US companies, especially, there's a big alignment because of historical reasons, right? And a lot of companies, I mean, the Wells Fargos, the Northern Trust, the Accentures and stuff have got large centers in Philippines catering to their clients as well as to their internal needs. And I know of many other companies that are exploring that. So some of those unique things position them well. I think India is not seen as a strong call center destination, or at least customer facing calls, right? And so some of those nuances will come in. But at a macro level, I think India is probably the best placed amongst all these.
Sure, Chetan. Thank you for that perspective. There is one more related query around this. Michael asked this: how does a good GCC qualify talent to find the best people available for the client?
I don't know if there's a silver bullet for that, Michael. I know there's a single way to say, hey, here is the best talent. But, what I would strongly encourage is that if if the company has made the decision to have a footprint in India for both commodity skills, generic skills, whether it's full stack, Java, .NET, etc., and is also then looking at niche skills, whether it's cybersecurity, cloud, AI, ML, Gen AI, etc. I think the niche skills are probably a smaller percentage of the overall talent pool that they're going to look for. Number one. Number two is then they should be willing to invest in either getting high quality talent, which is probably at a premium at a higher price point, or also look at developing internal talent, training them, etc. Because again, the demographics is of a very hungry young population, which is keen to learn, keen to grow, and is willing to stick their neck out and to look at opportunities which are beyond what they do today. And that's what I've seen in my experience. You give a problem statement to a group of people, you ask them to learn niche skills, and many of them will step up and make it happen.
Marco asks, what are the advantages if India offers versus emerging strong nearshoring tech hubs?
Yeah, again, it is the talent at scale at an affordable price point, because the nearshoring tech hubs, so if you take Brazil, Costa Rica, Uruguay in the South American region, Mexico to some extent, Poland, Romania, etc., you can't build very large teams. I mean, can you imagine somebody like Wells Fargo or JP Morgan Chase or HSBC? JP Morgan Chase, HSBC have got north of 70,000 people in India in their GCC, with revenues of $1 billion each. I don't think you can get that scale and size anywhere else. So
Yeah.
as I mentioned earlier, you can get some niche teams and some very specialized skills in the nearshore locations, but getting them at scale of a few thousand even will be a tough call.
I completely concur with you, Chetan, on that point. Yeah. The next query from Mubarak is, when a foreign company decides to look at India as a destination for their GCC, what steps do they take? How do they proceed forward? Do you want to give it a step? I can add on.
Sure. And maybe there's a good plug here as well. But really, it is once the foreign company decides to look at India as a destination, they may want to look at multiple cities in India. So location strategy is a very common first step to say, do I want to be in Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, NCR, Chennai, etc. There are these 5 or 6 key destinations, and there are second-tier cities as well. Somewhere, I think they need to have a plan, which is where do I start, with what scale, and then what is my future state or end state directionally. I'm not saying it's got to be written in stone, but directionally. If supposing they say, listen, I'm going to start with 50 or 100 people, but I think I can grow to 5,000, then they may want to look at a 2-city strategy rather than a single city strategy, right? And the 2-city strategy may be a tier 1, tier 2 versus a tier 1 city for both locations. So I think there are various pros and cons for that. That is really step 1. Then the second is identifying which processes or which technology teams are going to be the first movers, and then what are the waves of movement. Because according to that, you'll also look at hiring your top talent and looking at your transition plans. With technology, you may have a couple of months of transition between either the home location and the new location, or between vendors and the GCC location. In operations, depending on complexity, it may range from 1 month to 6 months. I've seen some really complex processes take 6 months, etc. So you look at the transition time, you look at hiring, etc. Just taking a step back, there's a real estate discussion that has to happen once you choose which city you want to be in. There's got to be the whole legal entity setup, etc., etc. And those are some admin, procedural things to be done, which can take a few months. Now, do you want to be in a shared service environment, a shared workplace, or do you want to have your dedicated offices? And that also determines how you go about doing it. Very often, companies partner with others, and I think that's where Torry Harris comes in, to partner with them to say, hey, help me in the initial stages for the first few months, years, and depending on what kind of model you adopt, you could either transition it over, and I'm sure Manjunath will speak more about that, but those are the various options I would look at. I have, just to share, in one of my previous roles, I helped a company, Northern Trust, in exactly that, by being an independent consultant and helping and guiding them in their strategy for offshoring to India, and how do you look at locations, how do you look at waves of work, planning, hiring, etc., etc.
Also, as we covered earlier, beyond this, the infrastructure, the real estate, the legal, the digital talent becomes critical. And we already covered in terms of how we could help in terms of shaping the portfolio for the digital transformation, as well as the implementation of this digital transformation. That brings us to the top of the hour. We would like to close the webinar today. I would like to thank everyone for their participation. This was special because of your participation. We look forward for webinars like this. And we will be sending this recording for the people who are registered. Thank you once again for joining us. And thanks for all of the interesting questions.